How do you start a siphon so you get that water draining out of your tank nice and quickly? What I do with the canister on is get your hose and put it up against the outlet of your filter while it's on, and it naturally just pumps water into your hose. Now this only works if you've got a canister filter. Even if you've got a lily pipe, you can still put it there. It'll put some pressure through. It starts the siphon and it's go, go, go. Once you've drained the water out of the tank, you'll need to drain enough, but what we're going to do now is clean the hoses of the canister filter really easily with this flexible pipe cleaner. It's got a brush on an end, and this is a 1.55 meter length pipe cleaner. You've got to make sure you drain the water, so this siphon is basically broken, okay? Because we're going to do something interesting in a second, but we're actually going to release the water, so the rest of the water in those hoses actually drains out. So on this Oase filter, we unlock it so we can detach the inlet and outlet attachment. You just pull that off, and the water there is water in the hose, but it's not leaking. There's just a few drips. But what we're going to do is drain the rest of that water. So you can actually unlock it. So what you do is, you can see those sort of two little pipes on the bottom of that attachment. And what I'm going to do is just twist it. Okay, so it's about 1/4 of a turn so that they actually unlock. Some water starts coming out. So that's the water just sitting in those hoses. Now you can imagine if your tank was full, it'd just constantly just keep draining. Okay, so that's why you've got to take some water out if you do this. And the beauty about doing this is now you are free to use a pipe cleaner and go all the way inside. Okay, so if you don't unlock it, then you won't be able to stick that pipe cleaner in. So this hose cleaner goes all the way in, cleaning the hose as you go along. And on this tank, it's come all the way out, and then you pull it back to yourself, and you catch all the debris. Okay, so there's a bit of gunk depending on how often you do this. So the good thing about this is you're actually pulling it out rather than inwards towards the tank. So you're not going to get all of it, but you get most of it, depending on how dirty that is, but you will get most of it. So you pull it all the way out. Okay, put a towel over it so it doesn't flick you in the face. Rinse it out, and that hose is done. And you do the same thing for the next one. So again, if you've got glass lily pipes, then you'll just need to be a little bit more careful if you don't want to take them off to do this, because the pipe cleaner is made of metal, and metal and glass is, not the greatest idea. So I'd be extra careful. Put a towel on the end, pull out all that gunk. And they were actually pretty clean. So I usually do that maybe every couple of weeks, but it's probably a bit overkill, to be honest. If you keep your tank clean, everything else stays clean. And so now that that's done, we have to set it back to how it was. So you twist it back to how it was. Now, if you don't do this right or you forget, you won't be able to put this back on. You go to put it on, it just doesn't fit. So it can only go one way. So that gets set back in, and now we're going to have a look at cleaning the pre-filter, which is another job that is pretty straightforward. You can go and pull this out and take it to the sink and rinse out the sponges. That works fine. Just put a bucket under there to catch any water. But I'm going to do it right here. So all we're going to do is rinse out the sponges. Not rocket science, but a few little tips. have some tank water so that you've got some fresh water to, rinse it out if it's extra dirty. You can do that, or you can just rinse it in a little bit of water that you've got in that bucket. So there's some plant matter in there, some dead leaves or some trimmings that have gotten caught in the pre-filter, which is exactly what you want. The sponges aren't that dirty. There's probably 3 or 4 days of not being cleaned, but usually I do this weekly and it's fine. I suppose it depends what's in your tank, how many fish, how much you feed, how many plants, and so on. So that's variable, but you just have to judge it. I just do it once a week and it's done. It's really important to put these sponges back on completely dry. So wring them out, dry them out, and put them on dry. What happens is when there's water in that pre-filter in the canister, so when you put this back in, if they were soaking wet, the canister will just overflow of water. So if they're dry, they absorb some of the water that's in there and it does not overflow. So that's a lesson. Make sure they're completely dry when you put them in. And when you put this in, do it really slowly. So you're wanting the water in the canister to be absorbed by the sponges as it goes down. And if you do it too fast, it'll just overflow and come out and make a mess. So you put it in really slow, you lock it again and fill the tank and you're ready to go.